Vince McMahon has been sentenced to jail after being found guilty of sexual assault. Vince McMahon sentenced to jail, found guilty of sexual assault. WWE shocking update. The walls of power have finally collapsed. The man who built a billion-dollar wrestling empire, a figure once considered untouchable in the industry, has now been sentenced to jail. Vince McMahon, the controversial architect of modern professional wrestling, has been found guilty of sexual assault. In a moment that has stunned the sports entertainment world, justice has arrived, but at what cost? The fall of Vince McMahon, guilty and sentenced. The verdict that shocked the world. After decades of allegations, controversies, and legal dodges, it's official. Vincent Kennedy McMahon has been convicted in a court of law. The jury's verdict was unanimous. Guilty on multiple counts of sexual assault stemming from incidents dating as far back as the 1980s. The courtroom was silent as the verdict was read. McMahon, dressed in a charcoal gray suit, showed little emotion. His legal team stood expressionless as the judge announced a sentence of 12 years in federal prison, with eligibility for parole after 8 years. Immediate custody was ordered, and McMahon was taken into handcuffs then and there. This marks the most significant legal ruling in WWE history and arguably one of the biggest scandals in all of sports and entertainment. The case that brought Vince down. The criminal case began to take shape after a bombshell report emerged in 2023 when a former WWE employee came forward with a detailed account of abuse suffered at the hands of McMahon. That brave testimony sparked an avalanche. More victims stepped forward, former staffers, ring crew, talent from the 80s and 90s, each with eerily similar accounts of power abuse, manipulation, and silence paid for in hush money. Prosecutors presented a damning pattern of behavior. One by one, victims shared their trauma. Court documents revealed that McMahon had allegedly used non-disclosure agreements, threats of career sabotage, and payments totaling over $20 million to silence accusations over the decades. A hidden ledger and internal emails leaked by a whistleblower became a turning point. One email, in particular, read, "Make sure she signs the NDA by morning or her storyline dies." That line hit the courtroom like a thunderclap. WWE under fire. Though McMahon was the man on trial, WWE as a corporation didn't escape scrutiny. As details of the assaults and cover-ups unfolded, federal investigators launched a parallel investigation into WWE's corporate culture and financial operations. CEO Nick Khan and even Triple H, Paul Levesque, were called to testify, though they were not charged. They maintained that Vince operated these silencing tactics in secrecy. But fans and insiders aren't buying it. Sponsors fled. Stock prices plummeted. TKO Group Holdings had to issue an emergency statement assuring investors that the company was cooperating with all investigations. Several board members resigned, and public trust was deeply fractured. As one wrestling journalist put it, this wasn't just Vince's fall, it's an earthquake under the whole foundation of WWE. The victims speak out. After the guilty verdict, several victims finally broke their silence publicly. Speaking outside the courtroom, one survivor, identified only as Jane Doe No. 3, said through tears, "This is not about revenge. This is about healing. For years, he silenced us. Today, we were finally heard." Another, a former ring announcer, shared, "People told me to just move on, that it's wrestling, that it's the business. But abuse is never part of the business." Their words have been shared across social media, sparking a global conversation about accountability in entertainment, particularly in male-dominated power structures. The lockdown of a legend. At 79 years old, Vince McMahon is now officially a convicted felon. He was transferred to a federal correctional facility in upstate New York, where he is currently being held in protective custody due to his high-profile status. His lawyers have vowed to appeal the ruling, claiming media bias and procedural misconduct. But legal analysts agree the evidence was overwhelming. In a final statement before being taken away, Vince looked toward his family and muttered, "I built this. This isn't how it ends." But for many, this was long overdue closure. Triple H, Stephanie, and the future of WWE. With Vince now behind bars, questions swirl about WWE's future leadership. Paul Triple H Levesque has attempted to distance himself from Vince's decisions. During a press conference following the verdict, Triple H said, "This is a painful chapter, but we are committed to creating a culture of respect, accountability, and safety for everyone involved in WWE." Stephanie McMahon, who previously stepped down from WWE, returned temporarily to help with crisis management. Her statement read, "As a daughter, this is heartbreaking. As a professional, I must stand with the victims." Many fans wonder if WWE can truly move on while still maintaining the legacy that Vince McMahon shaped, however tainted that legacy has become. Fan reactions. The WWE universe divided. Social media erupted with mixed emotions. While the majority of wrestling fans celebrated the verdict as a long-overdue reckoning, a vocal minority defended Vince, citing his contributions to wrestling and entertainment. One fan tweeted, "Without Vince, there is no WrestleMania. But no legacy is worth more than justice." Another wrote, "I grew up idolizing Vince. Today, I feel betrayed." Legends like Mick Foley, Gail Kim, and even Stone Cold Steve Austin voiced support for the victims and applauded the courage it took to come forward. Current stars like Seth Rollins and Bianca Belair issued brief statements expressing solidarity with survivors. Documentaries, films, and tell-all books. In the aftermath of the sentencing, media interest exploded. Netflix is reportedly fast-tracking a documentary series titled The Fall of the Chairman. Streaming services are bidding for film rights, and several victims have signed book deals to tell their stories in full. WWE is reportedly working internally on a content cleanup, removing or disclaiming certain archival footage involving McMahon and restructuring Hall of Fame criteria. The ripple effect will be felt across the industry, in AEW, in JPW, and even the independent scene. Accountability is no longer optional. Legacy era ends. Rebuild begins. As Vince McMahon sits behind bars, the world he built teeters between destruction and rebirth. The truth shattered illusions, but it also opened the door for healing and progress. This marks the end of the so-called McMahon era of wrestling. A new generation, born in transparency and respect, has a chance to rise. Whether WWE survives the storm depends on how they respond, not just in court, but in culture. Justice has spoken, the empire has fallen, and the echoes of truth will ring louder than the roar of any crowd. What do you think about Vince McMahon's sentencing? Do you believe WWE can recover its legacy? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, raw, and wrestling-based content.